Yeah, we take a strip.
So we're going to take some questions at the end of the morning, but Marie, thank you very much indeed for a real insight into the mainlining addictive habits of digital natives. I recognise that with some of my own students who seem to text all the way through my lectures. Anyway, so on the demographic theme, we come to our final speaker of the morning. It's my great pleasure to welcome Gerry Taylor, who's going to talk to us about realising the potential of the multi-generational workplace. Gerry is the founder of Gerard Taylor Design, and he's the creative director of Orangebox. He is manfully coming onto the stage with his crutches. He tells me this is not a workplace injury, but incurred while walking his dog. So I'm sure Gerry will tell you more about this. His background, product design at Glasgow School of Art. He's also an RCA alumnus, and a glittering career has brought him to the British Library today. Gerry.
And to pick up, do you mind, yeah, could you pass me the clicker, Jeremy?
I'll pass you the clicker.
And to pick up on John's presentation earlier, if you're looking for a mid-career break, it's a possibility. It lasts for about 2 months. You can dictate your agenda in a fresh way with a lot of empathy and sympathy coming towards you. You must have someone who loves you implicitly, because you're useless at most of the things you used to be able to do, like wash the dishes and walk the dog. The downside is the pain at the very beginning is awful, but once you get over that, then it's actually interesting, and it allows you to see the world in a fresh way, which in a sense is the agenda of today. All of us desperately trying to see the world in a fresh way. I think we've tried to give all of you a copy of our report, Boomers and Millennials, and I'm not going to go through that. I want to use my 20 minutes before Jeremy honks me off the stage to more describe the culture, because this is better digested on a train or on a plane journey. What I want to talk about is the culture that we are inhabiting that is producing all of this. And I don't want to use the word research, because research implies it's only of something that you have to be a specialist and it's of real relevance to your prosperity. I'd rather talk about the idea of a map, and maps help you see. You go to Copenhagen for the weekend, you don't know the city, and you have a digital map on your phone. It makes that weekend much more productive and much more rewarding. And in a sense, as a company, you know, my day job is a designer, that's what I do, but I'm living in such a world of flux. How can I try to guess what I should be designing for 5 years down the line? And my suggestion to you is better to try to understand through mapping the landscape that you work within. These are 2 reasons why we do this as a company, because I believe in the future there'll be 2 kinds of companies. There'll be quick companies and there'll be dead companies, and that's it. And I also believe this. There's a great Eskimo saying, the lead husky is the only one with the view. And we're living in a perfect storm, huh? And this perfect storm has gone on for an unbelievably long time, and it's not going to end anytime quick. And the big constituents for us involved in the workplace is this. It's the global economy, the pace of technology change, and generations seeing the workplace and life profoundly differently. And what's scary is that this is a global agenda, and it's happening quicker over there than it's happening here. And my nervousness is when we live in an economy where it costs £2.40 to buy a cup of coffee, how can we get value into what we do to prosper when there are parts of the world where what we do can be done just as well for a fraction of the price? We have to pay attention to this. And I love this because this rubs salt into this wound. The last time I read about Angola, it was a country destroyed by civil war. The next time I read about Angola, it's going to have a better 4G network than I'm going to access in London. And part of the reason for that, hey-ho, is the Chinese are piling investment into it, because they know this is a good revenue stream through the next 15 years, and they're giving the handsets away free. you know. And then you take this. Angola's capital, Luanda, has become a magnet for workers fleeing Portugal's ailing economy. This is from the Observer in September. And what's also happening is rich Angolans are coming to Portugal to get bargains. You know, I'm sure all of you know the great business thinker Peter Drucker. I love this, and I think Peter said this in the early 70s. The greatest danger in times of turbulence, it's not the turbulence, it's to act with yesterday's logic. And behaving with yesterday's logic is what intuitively we do. It's what we do unbelievably well. And also this from Reza, who used to be at Microsoft. It's important that all of us do precisely what our competitors and customers will ultimately do, close our eyes and form a realistic picture of what a post-PC world might actually look like, because we're not doing it. This perfect storm is raging around us, and we're not paying attention to what's going on in this storm. And if you want to know how damaging storms are, look what Sandy did to New York. And we have an arrogance to think, you know, it's not going to happen to me. I mean, I've gone through 50 years and I've never broken a leg. We found that because, you know, offices, and I know this is a container ship, but, you know, I like the image. And offices are like supertankers. Because of the legacy of technology and the legacy of building stock, big organizations can see this perfect storm. But as with the container ship, it's really difficult to re-navigate, to recognize the nature of this new landscape. And my proposition is this: our future depends on making the right judgment calls through the next 5 years. And a lot of us still making the wrong judgment calls, because how we are now isn't where we're going to be in 5 years' time. In a sense, this, you know, why in this report we talk about the two bookend generations, because demographically they're the more important. And also, what's the difference between 1980 and 1995? Not that much, but what's the difference between 1980 and 2010? Quite a lot. So this report goes in and looks at the two bookend generations in order to articulate the differentials with more clarity. But what is interesting, and remember what I said about this is a global agenda, we have 16 million millennials and 50 million boomers, and in China they have 416 million millennials and 325 million boomers. And you know, did we all heard what the new Premier of China said on his inauguration yesterday? Hey, welcome to England. Huh? And they're moving towards that really quickly. This is a brilliant book by Jonathan Fenby, who's a wonderful expert on China, writes for Financial Times. And what he's saying is the millennials, they're the central agents in the process of social change that's as important as the country's economic and political evolution. And if we don't recognize the nature of this, we suffer the consequences. And something that scares me is this: you know, not only have we got a legacy of building stock and legacy of technology, you know, the Victorians bequeathed amazing infrastructures to her. We're starting a little bit, but we haven't been reinvesting into what they gave us. We're the same, you know. Look at the average age of the UK. It's 40, India it's 26, and Brazil it's 29, and China it's in the low 30s. So not only do we have a legacy of infrastructure, we have a legacy of ourselves. You know, and you know how difficult it is to change stuff as you go on. This is a wonderful observation, and this is the crux of my presentation. In the 1880s, 4 key inventions shaped the office we still identify with today: the telephone, the electric light bulb, the typewriter, the elevator. They all came on stream pretty much at the same time, and for 125 years we were connecting pieces of furniture together, not people. And you can look at office environments through every 20 years, and they change, but they don't change that much. In our world now, a couple of words has changed, but it's a profound difference, because in the new workplace, we're connecting people, not furniture. But we still behave with the mindset that we're connecting via the furniture. And as we migrate away from fixed and tethered technology onto mobile technology, the furniture has an absolute different function. And what's scary is if you travel the world, go through any business district, look up at all of the tower blocks, with all of the mindsets of desk rows upon desk rows upon desk rows, in a very short period of time, they won't be the most efficient way to run an office, to run an organization. In a sense, this all kicks off about 10 years ago with the coming on stream of the glory of Steve Jobs and Apple and what Apple have accomplished. And I've given up, you know, on trying to keep pace with this, so I now just whack post-it notes onto my slide. You know, the first quarter of 2012, Apple's profits, not their turnover, their profits were 7.2 billion. And that's the number of devices that they're selling. We didn't see this coming, huh? We did not anticipate that we would migrate so quickly away from the old technology onto the more mobile technology. And what's also important is this has come out of the consumerization of technology. It's not the stuff that came out of the office, it's the stuff that came out of life. And, you know, touching on what Marie was saying about the generation who are leading this. I actually believe, though, that for all of this amazing storm, for all of us involved in the office world, we're actually about to enter one of the most interesting periods for the last 50, 100 years. Because I think we're going to change so much. If you're able to surf on the board, you're going to have a lot of fun. A great observation from Deloitte is society will keep evolving under its own power, but a thoughtful strategy to derive strength from diversity takes conscious effort. And it's not what we're doing. We're not taking the strength from the diversity that we have. The multi-generations working within the workplace offer more diversity than we're acknowledging, let alone working with. And what I'm saying is that we don't use that. Well, actually, we don't have any choice. We have to use it because of this agenda that's happening quicker over there than it's happening here. Because, sorry, I'll just go back. You can't stop this train, but you can miss it. And you know what? Probably 10 of you missed a train getting here this morning anyway. We miss trains ever so easily. And not just us individually, but big time. You know, where I come from, we used to be world leaders in shipbuilding and steelmaking. You know, there's still incredibly important dynamics to the global economy, but those trains have gone. We've missed those trains. Pittsburgh, a whole city that was a wonderful steelmaking town, has gone. It's no more there. Iceland, okay, well, it's not gone. They've clawed their way back, but they're all standing naked at geysers for the next 5 years. And the reason they're doing that is they did lunatic things like buy for a car in basket currencies that were mixing up Japanese yen with other currencies, and then, you know, the perfect storm changes and they find out that the car that they bought for £20,000 is now costing them 46. But we would do that, you know, we would all do that just as easily. Kodak, how's that possible? Masters of the universe for 50 years, making a brilliant company. You want to talk about brand identity? One of the best ever. Brilliant company, did brilliant things, masters of the universe for the photographic industry for 50 years, and they didn't see their world go from that to that. How's that possible? How is it possible? You know, big office buildings filled with expensive office furniture, filled with executives earning a lot of money with great pensions, and none of them saw their world go from that to that. Because it's easy to do. It's unbelievably easy to do. Look at BlackBerry and Nokia. Not that long ago, they were really great companies, you know. And you can imagine all the development guys sitting with this new, see this touchscreen? Nah, it's not going to go, is it? And they fuck the company. That's the nature of the world that we're living in, huh? We make judgment calls, and if we make the wrong judgment calls, we can shaft the best part of 50 years of evolution. That's the nature of the world. That's because we're living in this perfect storm. And a lot of people used to talk to me about the power of Microsoft, and yeah, Microsoft will hold it together. Look at that. Look at the change between, you know, the monolith of Microsoft and the new start of Apple. And I love this from a great report in Vanity Fair earlier in the summer. Apple now makes more money from their iPad than Microsoft achieves with everything they do. That little one device makes more money than the whole corporation. That's what, you know, and even, you know, the tech stocks are all in a frenzy because they can't even keep up with the pace of Apple. And even a great little company like HTC, you know, I always said, oh, it's a cool phone, it looks great, great company. They make a couple of wrong judgment calls and their stock value plummets and they struggle to have the money to reinvest to keep going. Remember what I said to you at the beginning? We live in a world where you're either fast or you're dead. What a great example of that. You know, if you've all been watching, you know, what's his name? The history program, Andrew Marr, wonderful series. You know, society has always been changing quickly, and he did a great program, so articulating that. So, and you would think, well, you know, this is 2012. By now we would be good at change, wouldn't we? You know, we've done it for generations. We're shit at change. We're useless at it. We struggle with it all the bloody time. And you thought, how's that possible with all of that pedigree? How did, and because of this, you know, these are the lead weights around their trousers, you know, maintaining the status quo, the tyranny of group thinking and shock of the new. Let's give a couple of examples of this, the status quo. Muhammad was easy, tragic end to his life. What happened was the status quo just became so much. He couldn't take the corruption of the Tunisian police anymore. And we all know the consequences of that one small atom. You know, the idea of the butterfly in the storm. What an amazing example of one small event having amazing effects that's still shaking out the world that we inhabit today. Take it through to this guy. He doesn't get it, does he? You know, what's scary about this guy is look at the world map and look at how big Russia is. It's vast. And, you know, this guy's managed to slow them down through the last decade because he's not paying attention to the world. And what a wonderful demonstration of that, because this is an official, you know, picture. and you know, he should have a good wife or something, shouldn't he? Say, look, the body's gone. You've got man boobs, for God's sake. You know, do it, but get a cool T-shirt on. But, you know, this will have tragic consequences. I'll give you two examples. You know, the Blue Bucket protests where a millennial generation, first virally and then physically, got pissed off with the officials in Moscow using the blue sirens to take special lanes when they were going to the football and taking the kids to school. So they did a protest where they ridiculed the guys doing it. You know, I love this guy. You know, with one of the protests, he said, I'm going to go with the biggest blue bucket. But they stopped the abuse, you know, and then we're all experts on the Pussy Riot now because that story blew up in a bad way. But that, you know, what I'm saying is, if he thinks that those momentums are going to go away, he's profoundly wrong. And I love this, you know, because just to show you how the status quo changes, all the early adopters who got really cool tattoos on their shoulders 10 years ago were really cool. You know, the status quo now is your gran shows up with a tattoo on her ankle. Do we see this coming? You know, this is, you know, really cool digital natives. They didn't see, you know, in 10 years, you would feel naked without a tattoo. And then how do you feel when gran pitches up with a little lizard on her ankle? You know, the tyranny of groupthink, you know. This strangles the shit out of us. I'll give you just two examples, because I've only got 20 minutes. Remember the Y2K bug? 2 minutes. The Y2 bug that was going to stop the world, and we managed to blow 600 billion on it. And you know, remember where Apple was at that point, because they had their computers configured to 29,940, and they could run with the cool advert. We might not get everything right, but at least we know when the century was going to end. But you know, we believed that the world was going to go, fuck. And it didn't. And we spent all that money. And on a more serious note is Paul Krugman, a Nobel economist, and I recommend this book to all of you if you haven't already read it, End This Depression Now. And he's saying, in all seriousness, there's a strong desire to see economics as a morality play. In 2010, much of the world's policy elite decided to throw out textbooks and lessons of history to deliver groupthink that we need to be punished for sins that, in the most part, never happened. Read the book. It's wonderful. And I'm scared because I can see an experiment going on in Greece, and the last time that happened, a big war happened as a consequence of that social engineering, that playing with dynamics that we didn't quite understand, the inherent consequence of those dynamics. And, you know, Greece is somewhere we all go on holiday. It's not that far away, and there's an amazing political experiment happening out there, the shock of the new. You know, in 1733, when John Kay invented the flying shuttle, amazing new piece of technology. What did we do? We burnt his house down. John Hargreaves, when he invented the spinning jenny, what did we do? We burnt his house down. You know, but, you know, and also when the first steamboat was trialed, he sailed up the river, and after an hour, he was lynched and the steamboat was smashed to pieces, because of the shock of the new and how unsettling it is to us. You know what the good news is? We've lost the violence. We've lost that violence, but a wonderful example of how the shock of the new still disturbs us. The Aeron chair, one of the best products of the modern office. is now 20 years old. And when Miller previewed that, and all of this research is online, and I recommend it, it's wonderful reading, but the response to this amazing new invention was, it's a piece of shit. In fact, you're insulting me even showing this to me and suggesting it's a chair that I can buy 2,000 of and put in my office building. You know, when it's finished, bring it back. When it's got some upholstery on it, bring it back and we'll discuss it again. Absolutely violence towards the chair. Verbal violence, because we've controlled the physical violence. The iPad, the same. You know, I'm having a laugh. No, I'm not having a laugh. When the iPad was previewed in January 2010, it went on public release in April, and Apple by then had got their marketing machine. But on the blog sphere, a lot of smart techie people put online things like, Steve Jobs knows what I'm thinking, does the world really need a tablet computer? The idea has been around forever in geek years. You know, what are we going to do with this thing? And the best observation is this, and there's a wonderful moral to this, because the man who said this is one of the best industrialists of our time, and one of the best industrialists of our time said of the iPad when it was previewed to him was, it's a nice reader, but there's nothing on the iPad I look at and say, I wish Microsoft had done that. Bill Gates said that. And Bill Gates is a brilliant man. And what I'm saying is that's the nature of change. You know, we might think that we're good at it and we can understand it. We don't. We just don't. And look at, you know, a great British company, James Dyson, who tried to find partners in the early 80s, and they said to him, you know what, you just don't understand the value of replacement bags in these machines. You just don't get it, do you? It's a revenue stream, huh? He's now got $1 billion company, you know, and he, £300 million, amazing company. He's now paying 12 grand signing on fees for bright graduates. And to show you how we still don't get it, he wanted to build an amazing design school down in Bath, and Baroness Andrews said, no way. Ah! And I'll just use the, how long have I got? 2 more minutes? No.
We don't like to stop you, though. If you thought the creative director of Orangebox was going to talk about office furniture, forget it.
That's a day job. This is a day out, huh? You know,
you're eating our lunch.
Yeah. Don't worry, I have 5 more minutes.
Or into our lunch.
5 more minutes and I'm out.
No.
Blade Runner is one of the best movies. You know, I've seen it 20 times. Ridley Scott's one of the best directors ever. You know, I worship at his feet. And it wasn't until the last time, you know, I'm a sad man, you know, what do you do on a Saturday night? I watched Blade Runner for the 25th time. I'm a sad man because I didn't notice until I watched it recently that on the opening credit, you know, you've got that amazing cityscape, and then you've got the Vangelis, and then this sign comes up, and it says, Los Angeles 2019. 2019 is only a couple of years down the line, and Los Angeles isn't going to look like this. He did this in 1984. He could have chosen any day he wanted, any day. It wouldn't matter to the movie. But that just gives you a wonderful insight. We haven't a bloody clue what's going to happen in the future. Never have done, never. And the worrying thing is this, and touching on some of the research that Marie was saying, you have to be nervous because we're a free enterprise, free capitalism, huh? And what we are doing with this technology, you know, following Fatboy Simmons, right here, right now, right here, right now, more, quicker, more, quick, more. This is what technology is giving to us, you know, and we're just freewheeling into it. And we don't have a clue the consequences of this. Because if you look at Google, you look at Facebook, you look at Twitter, that's their mantra. Their agenda is to pump more, quick. And we all know the consequences of that. Our work is fundamentally changing, you know, and not too long in the future, when I phone you, I'll say, hi, John, how's the coffee? Because I know you're sitting in a coffee shop in Old Street. The idea of becoming invisible from the organized, the corporate network, forget it. We will all be visible. And in a sense, there's one moral to this story is technology is all about take. You know, you were all, you know, I'm not stopping them from having lunch. I'm stopping them at answering the emails. That's what technology is doing. And I've got one suggestion to you from all of the research, is this. The office will become a more humane environment. It will look closer to what the guys, the early adopters are doing in San Francisco, because it has to. Because we are not machines. We're interesting people, you know? And if technology is all about sap, take, the office will have to become a more humane environment. It will have to become softer. It will have to become kinder. And even dull corporations are waking up to this. Dull banks, I mean, I've been in meetings where dull banks have said to me, we have to engage, we have to make this more interesting. And that's why I'm saying to you, I absolutely believe that we're in for an amazing time. So,
Fantastic.
no, I'll leave you with 2 slides. I'll leave you with 2 slides.
On that note,
Hold on, Jeremy, 2 slides. This is, you know, I could have used Lionel Messi, but I'm going to use the originator, Johan Cruyff, because this is a wonderful idea of what it means to be a great company. And, you know, all of you who love football, you know this. When I've seen Barcelona, they do things on the football pitch. They make space, and I don't know what they did. And I've been watching football for 40 years. It says, you don't move to where the ball is. You move to where it's going to be. And I'll leave you this, and I've nicked this from Kevin Roberts, the great CEO of Saatchi & Saatchi, and I don't mind nicking it from Kevin, he nicked it from the Pentagon, is this: we now live in a VUCA world, and that's not misspelled. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. That's the nature of the world. And this is my last sentence, because all of us, our job is to find new value in everything we do. And I love this observation. To develop a pen that could write in space, NASA spent millions on advanced technology. The Russians used a pencil. Thank you very much.